Hello and welcome to Spokane County Spotlight. I'm Commissioner Al French and my guest today is Todd Coleman, West Plains Area Public Development Authority Executive Director. Todd, thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure, and thank you for the opportunity.
You know, Todd, I've had the opportunity to get to know you over the past several months, but could you give our audience a little brief introduction of yourself and tell us the path that led you here to Spokane?
Be more than glad to. I actually grew up in a small town in central Washington, Quincy, so a place that wasn't on the map for a long time, now is headquarters for a number of companies, and went over to actually had the distinction of being able to grow up in a farming community and work on the farms and get through college. Went over to University of Washington and got a degree in civil engineering and practiced civil engineering for about 10 years, working mostly on municipal projects. So kind of my first entree into economic development, working with municipalities on water and sewer and site developments for a lot of institution type projects. And after that 10 years, got an opportunity to go work at the Port of Vancouver on their capital facilities. They had a number of large projects that they were doing, and so got tied in there. And really, that's where I started to make that connection to economic development and really have an appreciation for what bringing new businesses to our community can do for our communities as far as providing for tax dollars for our public services. And ended up spending 15 years there and moved out of the capital facilities side of things and went and got my master's degree in business administration from Washington State University. So I am a house divided myself, and spent 25 years over in the Portland, Vancouver area. And after that, I told my wife we'd go take a couple years off and show her the east side of the mountains, and went over to Boise and dabbled in some real estate. And after that, she said, "You're right, we need to stay east of the Cascades. It's much better over here, but we're not going to stay in Boise." So a couple of our kids are going to Eastern Washington University, and so found this opportunity and really glad to be here and glad to have the opportunity to contribute to this community. And I think this community is ready to go, and I think it's a great time for us. So really glad to be here.
Yeah, we're glad to have you and have you as part of our team. So this new Public Development Authority is an exciting partnership between the City of Spokane, Spokane County, and Spokane International Airport, which a lot of folks don't know is actually owned 50-50 between the city and the county. So for those who may not be familiar with the term, can you give us a little overview of the collective function of a PDA?
Sure, and what you mentioned just now with the partnership is really what intrigued me in this position and this opportunity, is that it's not all the time that you get to see a county and a city working so close together to bring jobs to their community. And that is a unique attribute that I think that we can leverage, well, I know we can leverage going forward. I'm very fortunate in that the board is made up of 7 individuals. We have the CEO of the airport, who currently is the chair. As you know, we have 2 from the county, Jerry Jimmel and yourself, 2 from the city, Ben Stucker and Teresa Sanders, and then 2 from the business community right now, Bill Butler, and the other position is open. Hopefully we'll be filling that soon because one of the members had to vacate. But that partnership, the goal of that group was to really go out and look at this West Plains Airport area and to bring jobs to this unique set of land, large sites that are available, particularly those around the airport, and some of are under the airport ownership. And if you look at the West Plains Airport Area PDA and you say, okay, what are the goals of the PDA? I can best describe them as probably three goals. One is that in order to bring businesses, we need to have infrastructure in place. So the PDA needs to be a sponsor or a facilitator of that infrastructure. Secondly, we have businesses that exist out there today that we need to make sure stay in that area and continue to retain those employees and continue to do good business there. But we'd also like to see those businesses expand. And then we also would like to recruit brand new businesses, those who may not even know that Spokane is on the map, don't know the resources that we have here. And the third piece of it is marketing, and that is, how do we get at those businesses who don't know that are here? How do we carry that message of our competitive advantages beyond the Inland Empire? How do we move that to California, to the Gulf Coast, to the East Coast? And how do we make sure that companies who could be employing here, creating new jobs, know that we exist and know what those opportunities are?
That's great, great description. So as I look at the PDA structure, you know, when I served on the Spokane City Council, we actually created a number of public development authorities in the city, but the challenge was they didn't have the revenue necessary to be able to promote or sustain economic development. And so the unique thing about this public development authority is that it has a revenue sharing agreement as part of the underlying structure. And I look at the PDA as really a vehicle that can get you from point A to point B, but without gas, without fuel, it's not going anywhere. And that's what the revenue sharing portion of this provides. And, you know, I started working on trying to create this revenue sharing proposition between the city and the county back in 2011. So it took 6 years to finally get everybody to understand what that meant and buy into this new paradigm shift about how can we as a partner between the city and the county and the airport work together, agree to share revenue so that we're all benefiting at the same level, and then promote the region. And that's what's so unique about this PDA. In fact, it's the only public development authority of its kind in the state of Washington. And for a long time, we as a community had suffered for not having a port district. Out of 39 counties, I think 33 of them have their own port districts. We're one of those that don't, and it's because of the taxing structure that's created when you create a port district. Well, here I like to think of this as Port District Light. We don't have the taxing authority, but we have all of the other tools necessary to promote economic development and stuff. So can you give us a little bit of an overview of the geographic area that the PDA encompasses?
Sure. The PDA itself covers 9,251 acres. I have not counted every acreage myself, but that's what it shows on the map. It is basically, if you were to follow I-90 to the south is the boundary, and then where it connects up to Highway 2, that's the boundary to the east and to the north for the most part. It does actually extend up to 12th Avenue in a couple spots, but we'll just call it Highway 2 for simplicity. Right. And then follows the southern boundary of Airway Heights over to Fairchild Air Force Base, and then back down to 902 and I-90. So it is a very large area. And what's so impressive about this area is when I first looked at it, I thought this is just a vast open area. But as you start to peel back the layers of the onion, you start just to see how many companies and the clusters that exist already within this, and the opportunities and the investments that have been made over the years.
So what will be your job as the executive director for this new entity?
So again, kind of going back to, it's always good to have three things that you're focused on so you don't have too many, right? I look at the first one is we've really got to do some planning for the site. When I call it site, it's the full 9,000 plus acres. And that is, we need to look at what is it, how will that property best develop? How can we best develop the densities? What are the strategic advantages that those properties have? And then how do we build that out? That's the first part. The second part is, once we have that roadmap, is collaboration. It's collaborating with the local municipalities on getting the infrastructure in place. It's collaborating with businesses that exist there today to look to see how can we help them grow into the future. It's collaborating with new businesses that we haven't even met yet. And it's just collaborating in general with all of the stakeholders and the partners in that area to take full advantage of what we have there. And the third piece, again, I'm going to come back to that marketing, is I feel that when I even looked at the Spokane area initially, I did not fully recognize what we had here. And so how can we peel back that onion so others don't have to? Right. And how can they immediately see the resources and the assets that are here, not only for their business and the business-friendly environment, but also for their employees and what a great place this is to live and the kind of balance that they can have.
Well, and a key part of that marketing is we're not only marketing the area that's inside the PDA boundary, but we're marketing the region. We're marketing Spokane. And so even if somebody comes to Spokane County and they're not located specifically in the PDA boundary, but they locate in the valley or up north, that's still a win for the community. And it's still attracting businesses to this area that create jobs and economic opportunity, and also that tax base so that we can continue to provide services to our citizens. So let's shift a little bit to the projects of the PDA. We've worked hard over the course of the last 6 months to bring Amazon to Spokane County. In July, Amazon announced that they would be building a new fulfillment center within the boundaries of the PDA. This facility is expected to open in late 2019 with initial deployment of about 1,500 workers, growing to about 3,000 during the holiday season to process inbound and outbound packages. Hiring we expect to begin sometime in the spring of 2019. So Todd, can you tell us a little bit about the details about what to expect from Amazon Fulfillment Center once it's completed?
Well, this is really an amazing project. I'm not going to take credit for it because literally my first meeting is when we were signing the interlocal agreements to move forward and to assist with that. The Amazon project in general, it's 2.5 million square feet. It's four floors, employment levels that could go up as high as 3,000 during the peak season, as you mentioned. I've looked into and heard about the operations behind the scenes, and it's very interesting. It's like little Rumba vacuum cleaners. You got a bunch of those running around back, moving pallets around to people on the fulfillment line who are filling those boxes that end up on your doorstep. It's exciting to see how this community came together and its ability to have the ground broke and prepared for this site so quickly. And I think that that's a success that we need to capitalize on going forward. But as I mentioned, I didn't have anything to do with that because I came on June 18th. Commissioner, you were on the front end of this. You were taking the lead for the PDA in those negotiations. So I think it's more appropriate for you to talk about the details of the Amazon site.
Well, thank you, Todd. It was exciting. I got the first call on this back in the first week in January when the property owners were just starting their negotiations with what then was Trammell Crow. So like a lot of national and international companies, they don't tell you right out of the gate that, oh, guess what, it's Amazon. They'll work through an agent. And in this case, it was Trammell Crow and looking to bring a major employer into the area. And so got the call the first week in January, immediately had meetings with Teresa Sanders over at the city of Spokane, and we started to put together a package to be able to assist the property owner in not only selling the property to Amazon, but in most conditions like this, they have a list of contingencies that they need to have addressed before they sign the final closing documents on the sale. And we had a whole list of contingencies that we had to address, and it put the city and the county and the airport and Fire District 3 and the State Department of Transportation into a situation where we were doing things that we've never done before and creating those partnerships and those relationships that brought everybody to the table saying, you know, it doesn't matter whether it's in the city or the county, this is in the community, and we're going to do our best to make sure that we bring that business to this community and stuff. So can't say enough about our partners in this effort that worked collaboratively to set the silos aside and work together to create a solution that allowed us, the property owner, to close the transaction with Amazon. We were working under confidentiality agreements, so we could not reveal who the company was until the company itself made that announcement, which they did in July, and then you can celebrate the victory. But from my standpoint, when you come into Spokane now on I-90 from Seattle, you've got Caterpillar, Fortune 500 company on the right. You've got Amazon, a Fortune 100 company on the left, and that's a really a good front door to have. So as we tracked other businesses, they know that these companies have done the analysis of Spokane and determined this is a great place to operate their business, and we're happy to have them here. And so it was exciting to be part of the team to put that together, and a big win for the community. But that's just the first of several companies. So let's talk about some of the other companies that have already signed on to come to the Spokane, and why don't you share some of that success with us?
Okay, but before we leave that, as you know, at the last board meeting, we had one of the property owners come in, and he talked about how instrumental that partnership was, and the fact that if he believes that if the city and the county did not have the partnership that they did, we would not have been successful in landing that business here. And I've seen that over and over in economic development, is having the right players at the table, those who speak with authority and who can make things happen, is paramount in being successful and drawing in these large companies. And we want the small companies too, yep. But we need all sizes.
Well, and you remind me of a situation that, back in late March, we had Trammell Crow and all their design team at a meeting down at the city. And at the city we had county engineers, we had city engineers, Washington State Department of Transportation engineers, all in the room, all handling different parts of the transaction. And so the Trammell Crow just listed off the concerns they had, and everybody took their role in terms of addressing the issues. And the beauty of that meeting was that if WashDOT needed help in engineering, the city and the county were there to say, what can we do to help you? And the same thing between the city and the county. And so that's the first time I've seen that happen. And after the meeting, we found out that the engineers, which is a local engineering team, been here in Spokane County for about 40 years, made the comment to Trammell Crow that they've been in business for several decades and have never seen a meeting where all the decision makers were in the same room at the same time working to try and make a project happen. And so that's what the Trammell Crow left with, was the fact that we're a community that's open for business, and we're willing to work as partners to try and promote economic development for the benefit of our citizens and stuff. So that's just one of those relationship paradigm shifts that's happening that I'm excited about with the PDA and the relationships we've created and stuff. So let's talk about some of the, go ahead.
So yeah, you were talking about or mentioned new businesses coming into the area. First, I think we should talk about a couple of the ones that have recently landed. You mentioned them by name. Caterpillar, I think, was a huge success for the Spokane area and putting it on the map. I always believe in economic development, what you need to show is you need to show the public's willing to invest public dollars for infrastructure, and then you need private companies to follow up with private investment. And if you get that, then you're going to be successful. So you had Caterpillar, you had Keystone distributing over in that area, the Petro station, just to get that started off. And now you've got Odom and Wemco over on the other interchange. What we've had in the works, and a lot of this was stuff that you've been working on for a while, we've got 2 hotels that are interested in being along I-90 on the 2 interchanges. Hopefully we'll have announcements from those folks before too long. We've got a retail store that's looking out closer to Highway 2 near Airway Heights, but within the PDA. That would be a huge boost to that area. And we also have a large equipment sales company that's interested. And these really aren't even spin-offs from the Amazon project. We're just now starting to hear about recyclers and other distribution companies and other folks who tend to site close to the fulfillment centers that have interest in these properties. And the key is leverage that success, leverage that infrastructure, and leverage those decisions. Like you said, if it's okay for them, it must be worth taking a look at.
Yeah, and when you see a community that has not only embraced national corporations, but also has a thriving local economy, and that's one of the things that we're enjoying right now. Is just about all cylinders on this engine are humming really well. whether it's the medical industry, the university district, the manufacturing sector, aerospace industry. There's a whole litany of industries here in this community that are doing extremely well right now, and we're very blessed to have the kind of entrepreneurial spirit that we've been able to demonstrate here. So.
And that's one of those things that I've noticed as I started to peel back the onion, is that you've got this aerospace cluster that already exists within this area. And we spoke earlier about Wemco, who makes tools and parts for the aerospace industry. And we've got Exotic Metals, who does some of the metal fabrication for the airplanes, Boeing aircraft in particular. And Triumph Systems. And I think, our next step is, how do we create an image for ourselves of what we are and what we want to be, and then how do we share that with the rest of the world? So I think, besides the healthcare system, and then the life sciences, we also want to be advanced manufacturing and aerospace. And that is what we have in front of us, is how do we make sure that people understand what businesses are already here, how they work together, and then how can we grow those businesses and attract others that can work around them.
And as I listen to you, and one of the things we talked about is being business friendly. And so for our audience, what does business friendly mean? Well, for the sake of, for instance, with Caterpillar, from the time they submitted their drawings on a 600,000 square foot building, the county issued the permit within 2 weeks. Yes. That was unheard of. They were shocked. They were surprised. They've never been in a community where they were able to get permitted that quickly. And in the situation with Amazon, I mean, one of the senior leaders at Amazon called me and said, we've never been in a community where the community pushed us. And they were surprised that we were able to turn this thing over. They went from starting negotiation to being into the ground in 6 months. In other communities, it would have taken them a year or two to accomplish what we were able to do in 6 months. And so that just talks to the teamwork that was created to make that happen. And when you can turn a project around that quickly, they talk to other companies. They are networking with other people and saying, hey, you want to be in a good community that will welcome you to their community, you got to talk to Spokane County. And so that's how you perpetuate that reputation that you were talking about.
When you talk about how quickly you were able to get into the ground and how important that is, a lot of communities think that they have shovel-ready ground. That's kind of the buzz term, right?
Right.
And they think that it's shovel-ready if they can be under construction in 12 to 24 months. I'll tell you, most companies don't have that long to wait. And shovel-ready, in my opinion, means that you better be in the ground in under 6 months. Mm-hmm. And that means that we need to get ahead of that infrastructure. We need to get ahead of things like stormwater, which is a significant issue out in the West Plains airport area. And there's also a lot of small wetlands that aren't necessarily providing habitat benefit in that location, and they also potentially create a risk to aircraft. So how can we look at dealing with some of these issues so that when a company like Amazon comes in, we can have those permits in place, we can have them breaking ground. 6 months at the absolute most. I'd love it to be closer to 2, but you're absolutely right. You've got to be able to respond quickly.
So what do you see as the competitive advantage of the West Plains airport area?
Well, again, when you start to peel back that onion, you start to realize that there's a lot more there than just large parcels of land. We do have large parcels of land. A lot of that's in private ownership. A lot of it is in public ownership. The airport owns a number of acres, and they've gone through a process to identify that as being surplus to their needs. But we have, at the West Plains Airport Area PDA, direct access to rail. That short line rail that connects up to the main lines, the Class 1 main lines, to the Columbia River sub, which heads out through the Palouse Coulee City, and to the Lakeside sub, which heads down to Cheney and onto the main line and into Montana. We have the airport with its tremendous access for commercial flights and for carrying packages and distribution. And we have I-90 right there. So most places don't have the 3 Rs, the runway, the rail, and the roadways. And this is, I think, one of the advantages that we have in addition to those partnerships.
Yeah, it's a very unique opportunity to have 3 out of the 4 transportation modes in one location. And the other thing is that, a trucking company can haul from here to Seattle and back in one day, and that's critical for the shipping industry and stuff. So, so what do you see as some of the challenges we have ahead of us yet?
I think the biggest challenge that the PDA will face is, again, getting ahead of the stormwater and the wetlands issues. I think a lot of the infrastructure groundwork has been laid. We can capitalize on what's already started and grow that. It'll take some work, but we can do it. I think a couple of the areas things that are going to challenge this area are somewhat outside the PDA's control, but things that we can help others, and that is making sure that we've got an adequate workforce. Someone to fill those jobs when those companies come. And we have the higher education here and the schools, K through 12 school systems that are fantastic, that we can help to leverage that workforce. I'm also concerned about workforce housing. Where are these people going to live? If a company like Amazon brings in 1,300 employees and half of those need to find housing, where is that going to be? Is it going to be Airway Heights, Medical Lake, Cheney, Spokane? How can we make sure that there's adequate housing for those folks?
So plenty of work yet to do and stuff. So I'm afraid that we're out of time. I'd like to thank my guest, Todd Coleman, Executive Director for the West Plains Area Public Development Authority, for joining us today. And as a reminder to our audience, a video of today's Spotlight can be accessed on your Spokane County homepage and on our Spokane County YouTube channel. I'd also like to remind our audience that Spokane County has a new mobile app, Spokane County On the Go. The app can be downloaded from your Apple or Android devices. For more information, visit our webpage at www.spokanecounty.org. I'm County Commissioner Al French. Thank you for joining us today on Spokane County Spotlight.